What is casting couch? I mean, it's such a... I hate the term actually.
I hate this term, and I more than the term, I hate the concept, and I hate the reality of its existence. To be,
It does exist.
they would probably do it, and they would be like, okay, I have no other way. Yeah, but we're coming from blessed families, like.
But sometimes it's so sad, no, that someone else gets the job because of those favors.
Definitely.
Personal favors.
Definitely.
And hi, this is Amanpreet Wahi, and I welcome you to yet another exciting episode of our so interesting podcast. And today we have a lovely, lovely girl, Srishti Juneja. I know her since very long. She has her own jewelry line. She's a fashion stylist also. And Srishti, are you an influencer as well?
No, I would not like to call.
Okay, great. But so without further ado, we would like Srishti to tell us, हमारे audiences को, कि वो क्या करती हैं exactly, and how did your journey really start? How did you come about being a fashion stylist or start your own line of jewelry?
Thank you so much for such a beautiful welcome, Amanpreet, first of all. And yes, knowing each other in that span and still not having this discussion, I'm thankful that we got together today and we are discussing our lives. So basically, this journey started with something that I never thought of, probably in 2011, which is now around 14 years ago. So I always wanted to do something related to designing, and I got into NIFT, which was again a very big fluke, and there's a story behind that. We can discuss that if we would want to. Also, then when NIFT happened, it was such a different world from my school life.
What course did you do in clothing?
Yeah, it was knitwear designing that I did from NIFT Delhi. And so being in a cocoon, always being sheltered with the family's restrictions and being a schoolgirl, suddenly seeing the NIFT life,
Yeah.
different. And I was such a naive girl who didn't even know how to travel in metro. So because that was literally the next exposure after school was college life that I got, like every other person. But today we're also street smart, and Gen Zs are very, very street smart. But I wasn't one of those people, and I never thought that I could be confident enough to make something of my own in life. But yes, God had other plans.
Yeah.
So when I started to learn how exactly this field works and what exactly happens, I got to know so many things which goes behind. Like if, for example, if you take a song which is for 3 minutes, it is just like we speed up, we forward and we skip and all of that. But if you talk about what goes behind, we've spent like 72 hours without sleeping to do that 3 minute of hard work. So anytime the next time you're skipping a song, don't, and please see what all goes behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally get that. But Srishti, tell us, was there a specific moment or event that made you realize fashion styling could be a career for you?
So I think
Or it just started as a hobby?
it never really started as a hobby also. I just wanted to explore and I wanted to understand what exactly styling is. I never knew that designing and styling are two different aspects, and a lot of people, even now, if I tell them I'm a fashion stylist, they relate it to being a makeup artist, or they relate it to being somebody who designs clothes for you. So styling is basically designing the whole look from head to toe and having an amalgamation of the entire thing coming together as a whole and as a picture. So I did not know that this is actually something that is done professionally also. But some senior came in our college and she saw how I was dressed up. She scouted me, and like a headhunter, she told me, let's go for a shoot. I would need your help in, doing the jewelry part and doing the mix and match of the stuff. I said, all right, and I'll bunk my class and I'll go, because it was in the college hours only. And then when I went over there, of course, the stipend price around that time was 1,500 to 2,000 that you used to get. And she made me log my ass off for 7 days, the entire pre-production time and also the shoot day. And then I went for a coffee break and I came back, and during the pack-up, she gave me 500 rupees. And I told her my coffee costed me 450, so you can keep this also. I learned it as an experience. So that is the moment when I realized that is the time that I realized if ever I make big in life, or if I ever have somewhere I am the head stylist ever, I'm not going to treat my teammates like that, because that memory stuck onto me, and that was like such a thing on my heart and my head, that I worked so hard and I never got the fruit of it. So you should never do something like this to
So
people who
these
are
are
bugging you.
like I that was actually my next question. Okay, what were the biggest challenges you faced when you were starting out, and how did you overcome them?
So, touch wood, like we've all been blessed in a way that we've not faced those challenges of monetary issues. We've always done this as a passion driven thing. So, that was something that I could say yes or no as per my convenience to projects. It was not like I'm sleeping at 4 5 a.m. and I have to get up because I have to earn bread and butter for my family. That wasn't the case. But yeah, when it was passion driven, if we are working for a 40-day shoot, we used to not sleep even for a single minute, because even after the pack up, the stylist job does not end. You have to take care of the next day's lineup. You have to take care the clothes are ironed. And when we are internationally shooting, there is no spot dada. There is no help. There's no tailor master G anything. So even if there's a nitpick, we have to do it on our own, all on our own. And my foot size literally grew like this, traveling so much and carrying everything on my own, because you could not pay for any kind of help when you're doing internationally. So that was one of the biggest challenges, but that shaped me into who I am. So I'm thankful for that as well.
So, every career has its ups and downs. So, what were the rejections you faced or failure initially, and how did you deal with it?
So I think this is with every industry, even if you talk about makeup, if you talk about hair, if you talk about photography, everybody, if there's a newcomer, they want exposure, they want stuff for their folio. So what do the established people do it in the name of big artists? They would tell them work for us for free, and then you can put their work in your folio. So that way it's a big challenge, because now that you've worked for 10 years, you've set a mark in the industry, you have a particular price that you cannot negotiate on, because you're talking out of experience and you're giving the work of your excellence because of what you've learned in all these years. So when I had a benchmark set, and then Punjabi industry is very, very miser with its money sometimes, because the producer gives the money, but then chain करते करते आप तक पैसा नहीं पहुंचता है, because either the director is taking us some,
The coordinators.
yeah, there's a lot of बीच में जो middlemen होते हैं वो पैसा ले लेते हैं. उसकी वजह से क्या होता है, करते करते एंड में आपके पास एक ही डायलॉग आता है, बजट नहीं है इस बारी,
हाँ,
आप अभी कर लो, नेक्स्ट टाइम यू एडजस्ट इट. तो वो एडजस्टमेंट कभी नहीं होता है. So that's why I set that thing in my head, that once I've decided that, okay, once I say yes for a lower price, then I'll have to work for that price every time. So that's why I started to choose my projects wherein the price was given as per my standards. And if I wasn't doing that, the challenge was that people who were not exposed to the industry and they were new, they were just freshers, they were ready to put in money from their pocket also for the looks and everything, just to get associated and enter the industry. So I think this is a common challenge to all the industries, but to overcome it, I think I have my jewelry business.
yeah,
One for the heart and one for the bank.
absolutely. The one for the bank is very, very.
Yeah, that is true.
So, Srishti, what was your dream styling moment? When did you feel like, oh my God, this is really good and I've just made it?
So I think when I look back now, I think every time I got anything was something that I never ever expected. But I think subconsciously I had already manifested so many things that when they actually happened for me in life, I realized, oh, I think I thought of it. Like, for example, if I talk about JSL, he used to do music for all these established Punjabi industry people, and I was listening to his songs in COVID times, and I never had a face to him. So I was like, my God, this guy has made such good beats. I wish I could work with him someday. And then, cut to in 2022, I did 2 to 3 back-to-back songs, and we had a launch of this song, and this guy comes up to me and he's like, "You're Srishti, right?" I said, "Yeah." So he said, "I loved how you did justice to my song." I said, "You are?" He said, "JSL." So he wasn't a part of the song in the album, in the video, but he was the one who had made music for that song. So I was like, oh, I manifested it somewhere. Then if you talk about Honey Singh or Milind Gava, or if you talk about Jacqueline Fernandez, I never thought about that. So that kept happening automatically for me. And in my subconscious, when I literally manifested it, it the results came in maybe years later, but they do came.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. So, Srishti, how would you describe your personal style? And what do you think sets it apart from other influencers in the industry?
I think I would never be the one who would be in the face and loud. That is what sets me apart. And no harm and foul to somebody who loves the loud style. But I think I am somebody who cannot carry it anyway because it doesn't do justice to my body type. And my personal style is very mood based. Like if I'm very, very lazy, then I'd be going out in a rugged jeans and very loose, off.
So, you're not interested in following fashion blindly. Like, people are like, this is in fashion, I want to wear it. Whether it's suiting their body or not, they
Not
just
at
want to
all.
wear it.
I think that is the key thumb rule to being a stylist. You can't let the fashion style affect you, which is around you. You need to accommodate to what suits you also, and then find a bridge way.
Absolutely. So, as we know, you started your Instagram journey in 2012. Building a strong community of followers is key for a wardrobe stylist. So, how have you managed to connect with and grow with your audience?
So I think when it comes to Instagram, it has always been very personal style and very it speaks about where I am, what I'm doing more than what I'm talking about in terms of styling, because I've always given my association and concentration on my projects. So when there's a project, then people do know that okay, this is something that's done by me. But when it comes about personal styling videos and all, that comes in the influencer category. I'm not there yet. Maybe a few years down the line, if I think.
So, did we discuss this earlier? That any biggest challenge that you faced? Uh, you know, Not really initially, but still, if you feel you face some biggest challenge in your
Yeah,
career.
like I think one is the fact that it is a very, very male dominated industry. Like if you talk about the crew, there's only hardly anybody who's a female. Even the makeup artists in the Punjabi industry are males.
Yes.
If you talk about the leader,
Okay.
most of them are males because somehow the lead connects better with them because there's like a comfort level and they've had this association with them since a long time. And if you talk about the rest of the crew, it's all male. So it's literally in 100 people crew, it's only me and the lead singer or the lead actress who's the female. So of course, they are in their vanity, and I'm doing the running around and all of that. So sometimes when we're shooting in like in a remote location, if I'm out and struggling from one vanity to the other because the
I
male
can
and the
really get you because all my life I've been modeling and I've been in the vanity and the stylist is running
yeah.
from here to there, and it's a tough job.
And now imagine that happening in the pitch dark night when there's a remote location, there's no sturdy lights around, nothing.
No one slept. My eyes were watering. The stylist like this outfit. The director saying not working. Now next outfit. I'm like, oh my god, I can imagine what.
That literally scares me sometimes because you don't feel safe even if there's nobody who's wanting any unsafe things for you, but it's just this one thought. Being in Delhi, you've always been cautious about your surroundings, so you feel like, oh my god, I hope something is like everything's gonna go correctly.
So, Srishti, how do you ensure that your audience remains organic? I mean, nowadays people buy followers and there's paid promotions to promote themselves really. So, how do you maintain that your audience remains organic?
So that's what I said. Like, I've been low key when it comes to my own social media profiles because I think that is how I like it to be. If it would have been paid or anything, then in last 12 years it had reached a crazy amount, but it's a very, very subtle amount as compared to what the other people around me are doing. So I don't want to be one of those like who's just selling themselves without any motive of the content. So I feel if there is a purpose, if there is a particular message that I can give, which is productive and which is informative and also which is something inspirational, only then I would post.
So we all get these messages, please buy followers and this audience and these many likes. I'm sure you also get it. Everyone gets it, especially when you're in the social media circle. So are you tempted to buy them or you just remain organic?
Well, like long back, I was told by my social media manager who used to manage my jewelry brand. He told me if you do this, there are chances of your account being hacked and there are chances of your account not ever getting verified. This was back then, you could not ever buy the verification. So, usi se dar ke I never did that. And I was never lured also because I was like, it's so easy because I did this. Gomit had done this social media masterclass, which where we were taught how to check all of this, how to check somebody's insights, how to check if they are having an organic reach or a non-organic reach. When I did all of that, it gave me an insight on how easy it is to spot if somebody is faking it. So I thought I don't want to be in one of those lists. And if you ever want to do that, you let me know. I'll tell you.
Yeah. So no pressure there to buy non-organic.
No, nothing at all. Because the ones who know me, I think your face value should speak more than your Instagram numbers.
Yeah.
If you're out there, it's so funny. People with 500K celebration, if they're in a gathering together, you and I won't even know who they are.
Absolutely.
And if we don't have followers, but when we step out, then people do know us. Like, so that is what makes the difference. You have to be real in the real world rather than having numbers specify who you are.
Yeah, really. And this whole validation nowadays that, oh my God, you're valid only if you have these many followers on Instagram. And, you could be like from a village and you have like 600. I'm like, what is this happening?
Yeah, you can be the next Big Boss contestant if you're making funny, stupid vlogs about you shitting.
Yeah, really.
I don't want to be one.
Absolutely. Very well said. Okay, Srishti, so how do you typically decide which brands to work with, or is it all about money?
No, see, to be honest, as I said, one for the heart and one for the bag.
Yeah.
Sometimes when there are challenges in terms of ethnicity or in terms of creativity, then definitely I would never say no to that project because I want to push myself and I want to push my boundaries to understand how well can I execute a particular thing. And the biggest challenge that you face these days is they don't decide. Like they don't well decided many days ago. They would tell you 2-3 days ago, okay, we want an avant-garde look or we want a particularly Harani look. I remember I met with this entire team and they told me that in 7 days they want to shoot like 3 songs. Like in a span of 3 days, they wanted to shoot 3 songs with 3 different ethnicities, and I had only 7 days to prepare for the entire crew. The main leads, and one was Haryanvi, one was typically Punjabi, and one was Rajasthani. So that is where I wanted to say no, but then I was like, no, let me try and let me just execute it. And also, the challenge was one of the actors was not like a typical size. It was something that is a plus size. We had to glorify that. So finding clothing as per their sizing or getting it customized within that, and there was Eid in the middle. So facing all these challenges, it gives me an adrenaline rush, but it also gives you a headache.
Yeah.
So yeah, and once you execute it and then you get the praises and then it's out there and then you are on screen and you're proud of what you've done, I think that is one major accomplishment which fills the heart more than the bank.
Absolutely. So, Srishti, any social cause you're passionate about, or do you ever think that through your followers you can bring about some positive change?
So now that you're talking about it, I'm looking back and realizing it has never been something that I wanted to consciously do it in one particular direction. But when COVID hit us all, and I didn't realize I was that passionate about the social, causes that are around us. So I was someone who was so driven to just inform people about the beds that are out there, the oxygen cylinder.
Yeah, even I did that, and I also never knew that about myself. The way it's brought, something inside us.
Yeah, it burned. And it gave me a fiery energy to stand up for the things that were going on wrongly at that time. People were selling off injections that.
Yes. And at that time, posting about outfits or, about your anything.
Yeah, it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
It
It just
felt
felt so frivolous at that time.
Yeah.
It just felt like we should use our audience and our followers for a better purpose.
Exactly. And I did not know how many blessings people blessed me with back then. There were so many messages I got even when their patients got discharged, people who I never knew of. They said your lead helped us and your group helped us because we formed a social help. Wherein unknown people were helping each other because they were segregated area-wise.
Yeah.
24/7 available in however way we could to help them in order to get the bed or even to put in an awareness that remdesivir is not important for everybody.
Yeah.
Because they were selling that injection for particularly 3.5 lakhs or something at a minimum price, wherein I have people in the medical industry, they told me the cost of that was barely 3,500 rupees.
Yes.
So it was just heart-wrenching to see people are earning through these methods.
Absolutely. It was. It was a crazy time, I think, for
Yeah.
all of us.
But
So Srishti, do you like what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced on social media? And a lot of times social media, I would say a lot of times social media is not real. So how do you deal with that? And social media trolling, and how important is it to show your personal life on social media all the time? How do you handle all of that?
So I read this quote and I think I stand by it. Private people post a lot, but still they have a life you know nothing about. So I think my life is related to that quote. I have a different social media life. That does not mean I'm not real out there. That is also a part of my life. But then there's a very spacious, sacred part of my family life, which I keep to myself. And I think that's how it should be. It should be sane and sacred because I definitely am scared of evil eyes out there. People are just going gaga. They're not sad about their own life.
Yeah, about others' happiness.
So that literally scares me because I can still take a chance of my career being out there because my life and my career is revolved around social media. But if you talk about private life, I can't take a chance with it. Like, I would post very less about my dogs or my family because
Yeah.
very possessive.
So we should tell our audiences that whatever you see on Instagram and social media is not always our real life.
Yeah, it is a real life, but it's not the whole life. It is
Exactly.
not the exact entire life. I have a routine. Half the people think that I am, up the entire night, but they don't know that I sleep early and I'm up early.
Yeah.
They don't know about my routine, and why do I justify it to anybody unless they're living with me?
Okay, Srishti, so what is the social cause you're really passionate about, and do you agree that showing personal life is important on social media? So now that you're asking me this, I realize that it is something that we never really particularly are driven about, but when it comes to us and when it comes in our notice, it is something that our heart tells us and our soul wants us to speak about. Like, as you know, in COVID, we all came together and we formed a social help group, and we were doing our bit to help people around us, and we were having blessings from everybody unknown because of that particular thing, and that just gave me a soul satisfaction that was not related to money, that was not having anything. It was just a CSR our soul wants us to do, and we got that purpose that okay, now we can actually use our influence and our followers for a better purpose, and at that time it felt so good that sitting at I remember I was suffering from COVID, and I was quarantining myself on my floor. No one was there, and it's not a nice feeling to be alone 15 days. So I was quarantining myself, and I was on the phone the whole time trying to help people, the oxygen cylinder. It was just a chaotic time. It was a very, very. And those blessings maybe helped you heal quick. Apps. I was, touchwood, never affected by COVID, and nobody. Really? Till now. Lucky girl. So I don't know if it's a miracle. Of course it is, because I have not been doing something crazy good for my immunity, or I'm not like really a fitness freak also. But then, when I was putting my energy into helping people and just collectively doing prayers for everybody around, that just gave you something that is unmatchable. There's no money that can help fulfill that satisfaction. Absolutely. Talk about people who are out there, selling injections at an exorbitant price. I was just making people aware that it is not something that is also needed, definitely. And, it was just a chaotic time, as you said. So everybody was just hovering on to anything that they could get, even if there was nobody. People were ready to pay anything, 3.5 lakhs, 4 lakhs. And, one very sad incident where our friend actually got the injection also, and the hospital didn't put the injection in him, and we lost him to COVID. And later on, the hospital, we're like, okay, at least give us our injection back, we can help somebody else. And they're like, which injection? Oh my God. Yeah, and it's a very, very big hospital. I don't want to name. I mean, there are a lot of hospitals that did a lot of. Just a really bad experience and the memory trauma. So, Srishti, tell us some of the biggest challenges you faced on social media. So I've not been trolled as such, like, thankfully, till now, because as I said, like, I'm sailing in the same boat. Luckily, I haven't been trolled. As I told you, people with a face value, nobody would ever troll them because they are ones who are out there. If you talk about fake followers, and if you talk about the fake, you're projecting yourself to be somebody else out there, that is when people get irked and they are like, what the hell are you doing? We know who you're
who you are and what you're up to in real life. So that is why those people are told. If you have no curtains to maintain, then people accept you in real and in real life.
So what's shown on social media, is that real life?
That is real life in my case, but that is not my whole life. So there is a part of my life which is unknown to a lot of people who are out there on my social media. But I think that's how it should be. You need to keep a sacred space to yourself, a sacred space of your life just private to yourself, because evil eyes are real.
Yeah.
And people are not happy with their successes or not sad with their sadness.
They're definitely sad about others' successes.
So I am very, very scared about that.
Okay, so can you tell us a bit about your family and how they influenced your journey into the world of fashion, and were they supportive?
Oh, so my family till date, like my dadu thinks I'm doing something related to fashion. He does not know exactly what is it that I do. And funnily enough, nobody in my generations have been in the fashion.
Yeah. So you were the first one.
Yeah, I am the black sheep of my family. I have accepted it at this point. And
So how did they react in the beginning? What was their reaction? Fashion styling, like my parents were like, modeling? Like you're so intelligent, you have to do your IAS and IFS, these exams and that. And I was doing my English honors, and my family's like, "Acha, theek hai, hobby, right? Tu chhod degi."
And it is a tough job. I think I've worked so closely with modeling because modeling and styling goes hand in hand. So I absolutely understand. Maybe you've faced so many more struggles than I have, because you're out there and you have to sit patiently for 4 hours. And so many times there are directors who've told me, okay, एक शॉट के लिए ना आप आ जाना फ्रेंड बन के लड़की के. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm much happier behind the screen. That's how it is, because it's way harder.
Yeah. I've made my coordinator friend become like one of the extras on my.
Yeah, that happens.
That was funny. But did any specific members of your family inspire your sense of fashion and style growing up?
So I think in terms of inspiration, in terms of styling, I would say it was just inherited by my dadi, because she's somebody who's very matchy about everything. Like her shoes and nails and everything needs to be prim and proper. My hair color appointments are delayed, but hers aren't. So I think that's where
Tradition and her culture.
yeah, that inheritance is in my genes automatically. It's subconscious. And if we talk about this particular field, I think how they've supported me in the biggest way is they've let me be. So they did, even if they were not understanding what is it that I'm doing, they had this faith in me that I'm doing something good for myself and that is giving satisfaction to my soul. And they've been supportive in the manner that if I have to travel for my shoots and have to be away from my house for so long, they would just understand, and they know that I'm single and I'm not married yet. So they can just let me be and make a life of my own till the time I settle down.
Correct. So, Srishti, we didn't get to talk about your schooling. Where did you do your schooling? And after schooling, when was your first shoot and what was your experience like?
So I did my schooling from Manas Study School. It's in Rajendra Nagar. And yeah, so I did my fashion designing was the first year that course was introduced was in when I was in class 11th. So during that time, there were very few people who actually opted for this batch. And my fashion designing teacher that time was like, because I became naughty by class 11th, I became a little here and there and not as studious as I used to be. So she used to be like, you want to go to NIF, but you can never crack NIF because your concentration levels are so low, this and that. So she used to always, tell me you can't do this. And once I got into it, she's like, I always knew she's my star student, and she calls me to the school now to inspire the people who are now doing fashion designing and tell them what.
So good. Like,
Yeah, it's a full circle. That is true. So after that, when I got into NIFT, before that, how I got into NIFT is also a very funny story, because we had our pre-board exams when the entrance exam was on the side also of NIFT, and NIFT exams always happen on a Sunday. So when I was sleeping, after I had studied the entire night for my pre-boards, my mother woke me up in the morning and she's like, you have to go for your pre-board entrance, your NIFT entrance. I said, my pre-board exam is tomorrow. I don't want to go this year. Let me just take a year's break and then go next year. She's like, just at least try and see how it is, what it is. And then even if you don't go in, you always have the next year to go in. So when I went in, just randomly, I went without any preparation. And I got my result. There were 3 rounds, and the final result I got 356th rank all over India. So that's how I got NIFT Delhi, and it was a fluke because it was meant for me to happen. And before the NIFT entrance, also I had given all the on the basis of my 12th board exams, I had gotten into a lot of DU colleges. So in my head, I always had this plan that I want to do my English honors from here and there. I got into JMC, I got into 2, 3 more colleges, and I was well prepared. I want to do English honors because I love English. But then when I got into NIFT, I of course had to take back my fee because you can't do 2 courses together when you're in a national college. So that's why it was heads on NIFT from there on. And 2012, somebody scouted me. I till date, I have, run my memory so hard, but I can't remember what was it exactly because of which I got my first song shoot. So there was this guy who had my reference through somebody, and he was like, I want you there at the shoot, and this is a shoot for Astha Gill and Sukhi. So I was like, okay, I don't know who they are, but I'll go. And then when I met Sukhi and when I met Astha Gill, and then I realized, oh my God, I've seen them in Badshah songs, I've seen them here and there. That was my first ever song shoot, and being there in itself felt surreal. And that is where I realized I'm meant to be here, and there was no looking back from there.
How nice. So, winning the Mr. and Mrs. India 2018 Accessories Surprise Jewelry Partner Award must have been like incredible. So, how did it really shape your career or change?
So we've done a lot of, when it comes to pageants, we've done Delhi Times Fashion Week so many times. We've done Bombay Times Fashion Week. We worked with a lot of makeup artists as a collaboration or a sponsor for their students and for providing jewelry to their students, or even having stalls outside their seminars. So I think I was so passionate about making it big and making my brand reach a particular height and known to everybody that whatever umbrella I could cover back then, I used to be so like a one-man show, but running from pillar to post there. And now that we're speaking about it, makes me nostalgic. I wish I had that power and energy back again, because I used to be so like all over the place to be doing all of this. When I did the 2018 pageant, I did one in Dehradun and I also did one in Aerocity. So when I was seeing those students, it brought back my memories of colleges as to how much gleamy my eyes were to become something in life. And they were from all over India. They had come together under one roof, living together, training themselves for 30 days under mentors to learn something new. And they wanted to make it big, and they, even though they knew there's only going to be one winner,
Yeah.
they would still keep doing their best. And when I used to be styling them, I used to be mentoring them. When I was to be hearing about their life struggles, I used to only thank God that how smoothly my road has been paved. But again, looking at them just gave me a lot of motivation to always make it bigger in life.
So, how is it like, you've been in the industry since long. I remember, when I was actively modeling, your comments were always there, your likes were always there. So, I remember you since then. So, and of course, you've grown so much since then. So, how is it now? You worked with so many celebrities like Neha Dhupia, Amy Vick, and Urvashi Rautala, Nia Sharma. So, how is it? So many feathers in the cap. How does it feel?
I think it's only made me humbler in life, because I've realized they're all as humans as we are. Because when I went to Honey Paji's house, their parents were serving us food, and that made me realize nobody can match your humbleness.
Yes.
No amount of success.
I've heard he's very humble. Yeah.
The most humble and the best host that one can find. And I think that is what teaches you in life, that the bigger you are, the more quieter and calmer you are.
So, we spoke about Punjabi music videos. So, and you said it's a very male dominated society. So, is there some exploitation happening there as well? I mean, it is a controversial topic, but
yeah. So,
enlighten us.
There is exploitation to an extent of abuse of substance, of course, and alcohol, which is again a very personal choice. That is not like a given that if you are in the industry, you have to do it and that's how you'll make it big or survive. It's a very, very personal choice. But again, when you talk about male versus female, and when there is these kind of abuses that are there, then a female obviously feels a little scared, and that is there for sure. And there are a lot of things that I'm not sure if we can speak about, but...
Well, I have given a zillion interviews till now, and every time I would sit on in the chair and the host would ask me, Modeling. What about casting couch? I would be like, oh my god, do they have any other question? And now I can actually ask you that. I mean, what is casting couch? I mean, it's such a I hate the term actually.
I hate this term, and I more than the term, I hate the concept, and I hate the reality of its existence. To be
It does exist, of course. And that's what I keep telling everyone, that it's not that casting couch exists in Bollywood or modeling only or Punjabi industry. I think even in the corporate world, it just exists everywhere. People think that they're giving you a job and you owe something to them in return.
if you talk about personal relationships or personal circuits today, that exists in that also. There are people swinging, and I don't know what all is happening. But again, when we talk about all this, it's not a given that it's only supposed to happen and then you're supposed to get work. It's a personal choice.
The new generation is definitely bringing about some good change. Definitely. The educated ones, I hope.
I think it depends on the person's fire that's inside of them. Like, as I said, if somebody's bread and butter is this and they have no other way out, they would probably do it, and they would be like, okay, I have no other way out. Yeah, but we're coming from blessed families. Like,
But sometimes it's so sad, no, that someone else gets the job because of those favors,
definitely.
personal favors,
Definitely.
and the person who actually
Is worthy
deserves
of it.
deserves it on merit
Yes.
doesn't get it. So it is very, very sad. So, Srishti, you work in music videos like Hora Nu, Sandal, and Storm Rider, shows incredible versatility. So, how do you approach styling for a diverse range of music videos?
So if you're talking about the diversification, I think it is an amalgamation of the director's vision and then how well are you in sync with your entire crew and team. You have to make sure that your female lead is comfortable and your male lead also is comfortable. Like, I remember when we worked with Pearl Puri, he's very particular about his boot length or his boot height, and his boot length cut का एक particular shape होना चाहिए, वरना मैं वो jeans नहीं पहनूंगा. So I remember I received a 5-minute voice note on the type of jeans that
So many times the singers are so short, like next to me, that the stylist was told heels pe lao unko, Ramanpreet ko zameen pe lao.
there's also you do cheating with the camera because you put like a carbonated thing here, and then they make you, the male guy, stand there, and then they shoot it in a manner you both are standing at the same height. So ये cheat codes मैंने सब सीख लिए.
So how do you balance your personal style with the demands and trends of celebrity style?
The personal style still exists, and it speaks of my personality because I think I'm just a very transparent person when it comes to my relationships or even when it comes to my mood. So if I'm unhappy, if I'm unwell, it shows on my face. So similarly, if I'm feeling happy and vibrant, it shows in the kind of styling that I would do. And it would never be in pressure of anything. That if you're telling me that metallic leggings, they became like a hoarding thing for everybody's outfit. I was like, okay, I would take my time. I would rather space out from that for that particular moment because I wouldn't want to be seen just wearing what everybody else is wearing. I would take my time, and once it's depleted, then I would get into that. So
I know sometimes it just feels like, oh my god, you're just following the herd.
yeah, and that's why sometimes Zara shopping, it's irritating.
Yes,
Everybody's yeah.
I know. So what's one personal fashion rule or mantra that you live by and would never break?
I think skincare.
Okay.
It's not related to fashion in general, but skincare and putting a lip tint and a mascara just changes your entire aura. I feel.
Yeah.
Because if you meet people, you have that smile, you have that glow on your face, they feel happy, everything is zen around you, and your day goes well.
Correct. So when you're not working, what kind of clothing or fashion choices do you make for yourself? Do you have a signature look in daily life? Like when I'm not working, which is tomorrow, I'm going to be like a couch potato in my PJs in my bed watching Netflix.
As a Libra, I'm supposed to be balanced, but when it comes to this, I am absolutely not balanced. I'm either a beggar in a beggar look, or I'm just like prim and proper. There's no in between. So when I'm home, I'm absolutely in my kaftan, chilling in all of that. Yeah.
So what's a personal or career milestone that you're most proud of?
I think executing 40 songs in 16 days, that is something I'm very proud of, because that journey taught me so many things which I can't even describe in words. That taught me about being self-sufficient, because I was always that person who thought I can't survive or exist without help around me. So that taught me you are enough. And I think that is the takeaway from life that I have, that you are your whole person and you are enough.
So, Srishti, we've spoken about a lot of your personal choices and positive influences you've had from the fashion styling. So, any one scary moment experience which you've had while working, and when something actually went completely wrong with the clothing or styling, or any experience like
I forgot one of the bags
that?
at our hotel, which was an hour away from the location. That scared the hell out of me because I didn't realize I forgot it. And I didn't even know where it is. I thought I'd lost it. And, it had so many outfits inside of that. That scarred me for life. And I just started chanting Hanuman Chalisa that
Oh,
please just help
really?
me find it. And then my director told me that he was still in the hotel and he found it in my room. So he got it with him later and we were saved. So I've always had this angelic help from somewhere or the other when I've been stuck like this. Because, it's just humanly impossible to remember. Like if I'm carrying 10 luggage bags with me and I remember I have another carryover, which is the 11th one. So when I reach there and if I'm missing one, then I'll still think, okay, I had 10 only, so one is forgotten. So it's very difficult to keep track of all of
So, how do you determine which fabric to choose for a particular client? I mean, their body type or.
So if you're talking about flowy fabrics, they work a lot for a lot of body types. That is one save that you can take away from it. If you want to make anything look grandeur, then you can have a flowy fabric working for you. But if you're talking about structured outfits, then they work very well for actual models who are out there without any issue.
So, do you think about their comfort, or is it all about fashion? I mean, you better look.
I definitely have to be in sync with them or they're going to grill me in the vanity.
Okay, so are there any fabrics you tend to avoid for certain body types?
Yeah, I think like metallics can be avoided for pure shape bodies. But again, if the client's demand is such, like we did Shera's sister's shoot, the last shoot that we did. So she was wanting to have a variation in all her looks. And when we were talking about metallic, I was wanting to avoid it, but she wanted something like that. So we did it in a manner that we're only shooting this particular area. Or if you're even shooting here, we're going to camouflage it with a lot of silhouettes or with a lot of we're going to coil it up. So that ways it worked well for her and she was very happy.
So, any favorite jewelry brand which is your go to every time you're choosing something for clients?
My own jewelry.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you ensure that the jewelry you choose enhances the overall look without overpowering it? Some people my God, some people are like Christmas tree. I feel like over styling is also not nice. Like,
As I said, there has to be a key element. Like if I'm muted in terms of my entire outfit today, then these chunky earrings and these rings are, I think, enough to oomph the entire look up. But if you're going to put everything together, then the focus is not going to come on one particular element and your purpose is not going to be solved.
okay, so now our audience, I'm sure they really want to know that whether Srishti is single, married, boyfriend, girlfriend, everything's
absolutely
possible.
single.
Okay, so does Srishti believe in true love?
Yes, for sure. I think true love finds you eventually, whenever it has to. But I definitely, if there's no love, there's no marriage for me.
So, do you think social media has impacted our relationships so much, like they've changed?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
If we talk about this, you were talking about one social cause. I think the next social cause I want to do in life is once I'm settled and fulfilled with my life, I want to start psychology for counseling as
Yeah. So, what is
counseling for
what is
couples.
that biggest challenge you think couples are facing today in this digital age?
Social media addiction and comparison of their lives.
Social media addiction, for sure, and lack of communication. No,
That
not
is because of
communicating.
addiction. That is, and did you
On the phone all the time.
it's not just being on the phone that is the problem. The problem is that they're on the phone with other people
Yeah.
who are not their partners.
Yeah.
And then they're from the opposite genders. And then they eventually feel, यहाँ से love इसीलिए खत्म हुआ क्योंकि यहाँ गया है ना, इधर जाने क्यों दे रहे हो?
Yeah.
You need to leave your phone aside and talk to the person who's sitting next to you.
So communication is the
Communication is the key, and acceptance of the fact that there was love. That's why the marriage happened. And now that it has happened, it's up to both of you equally to make it work. Like I read the statistics that happened of the divorces in COVID because partners found each other cheating. And those relationships were ages long.
So is that the non-negotiable for Srishti in a relationship? Cheating?
You as well. I mean, like, why would anybody accept cheating? I think my soul doesn't allow.
Absolutely. What's the key to maintaining a healthy relationship?
I think just knowing that it can get boring after a point because it's not a movie which is always going to be full of highs and climaxes and joyous moments and those romantic Shah Rukh Khan sari moments. No, it is real. As you like, as we spoke about, relationships are not Instagram. They are real. There have to be a lot of challenges, a lot of hardships. But once you hold your hand with your partner and decide, you need to face it together, and no matter what, it's both of you against the world and not you against each other.
So in your past relationships, you must have had some experiences. So do you ever think that, oh my God, this was the advice I would give my younger self?
I think I would tell my younger self not to be that naive to trust on anything that the other.
I do same. I think I've trusted too many people blindly.
Yeah, and but don't you think that happens? That's a collateral damage that comes with being in love.
Absolutely, it does. So, Srishti, now we have come to the last section of our podcast. Last, but definitely not the least. It is a very, very fun segment. Totally inspired by Coffee with Karan. It's our own Edge Talks rapid fire round.
I wasn't aware about it.
So let's do this, and no thinking, no long answers, just whatever comes straight to your mind, go for it. Okay, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Wow, I'm a night owl. What's the best advice you've ever received?
I think to keep loving myself before anybody else. And Meenakshi ji gave me that advice.
She is the bomb. One thing you can't live without.
My dogs.
Favorite way to unwind after a long day?
I think going for a musical drive or movies, that's best.
One habit you can't break?
Vaping.
Vaping. Okay, and then don't follow her on that. What's your go-to productivity tool?
I think going for my yoga, that just gives me a rejuvenated feeling. Yeah.
If you want to have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
If we're talking about historical figures, what era are we talking about?
Anybody. I think it can be.
I want to ask Hitler why he did what he did.
Yeah, really, my God. You would want to meet him, my God. Wow, that's a scary choice. What's one thing on your bucket list?
I think fulfilling so many dreams I've not spoken about, and once they're fulfilled, then I would say, okay, this was on my bucket list and I tick that off.
So what's your secret talent?
My secret talent is tolerating a lot of bullshit without letting it come on my face.
That's poker face. That's a good one. If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
I don't know. Maybe I'd be married by now with 2 kids is what I think my parents would love for me to do.
Okay, and Srishti, before we go, please tell our audience any advice you would want to give people who are trying to venture into fashion styling.
I think it's gotten so easy now, and there are so many colleges who are doing a lot of courses, a lot of exposures. The only key and takeaway from every career and every person I've met who have been more established than me, I've always been told, be consistent. And, even if there are lows, just don't think like it's the end of the world. Just know it's a bad day, but not a bad life. And you're going to be out there for sure.
Well, that's a lovely advice. Thank you so much, Srishti, for being on our show. You look lovely. You were lovely. We loved the answers. Thank you so much, audience, for joining us on our podcast. This is your host, Amanpreet Wahi, signing off.